So I had a great dialogue with Marty on his podcast, Philosophy Chat, and he brought something up kind of in response to what I had shared about Schelling's organic philosophy of nature. And he said that it sounded more of like a description rather than an explanation of how sort of passing through the Kantian threshold or the transcendental limits and into renewed participation in the ground or abgrund, as it were, of being. And I wanted to speak to this distinction between a description and an explanation, because I think we have a tendency in our materialistic age to imagine that explanation would mean to provide a theory or model, preferably mathematical in nature, that would tell us the underlying causes which give rise to the appearance, right? So we might describe something in terms of its appearance and its various qualities and so on, listing them, but to really explain something, we would need to know the underlying parts. We would need to get to the bottom of its activity, as it were, beneath the surface that appears to us. And this is, indeed how modern sort of particle physics still imagines itself to be operating. It still pretends to explain, or proposes to explain, the phenomena by reference to something hidden beneath phenomena, but that which is nonetheless still imagined in terms of the phenomena. In other words, we use categories which make sense to us in the phenomenal realm of objects as they appear to us, and their relationships that we can, measure and track and abstractly represent in that phenomenal world. Our categories more or less work, but what materialistic physics would want to do is to use those same categories to determine something beyond our, common sense experience, using instruments like, telescopes and microscopes and various measuring devices to detect activity that's far beyond the proportionality and magnitude that a human body with its sensory array is used to dealing with. So there's a conjectured reality, as Whitehead would say, that's placed behind phenomena and is said to be the cause of phenomena, and that's what we take to be an explanation, typically, within this materialistic paradigm. And it's not that I would say we have to just remain happy with mere description. I think, when I write and talk about something like an aesthetic ontology, I don't mean to reduce science to mere description of appearances. No, I think the only way we could partake of being, the only way we could know reality would be intuitively, experientially, aesthetically. And so aesthesis is the portal to being. It's a birth canal, if you will. It's a lure. And when we engage in natural philosophy, we're not going to be able to point to something beyond what appears as an explanation, other than to say that there is a generative core to nature that we only ever detect after the fact, after its manifestation, but that there is a potential held in reserve, and that potential, that potency, is, as far as we can tell, infinite. Entire universes can emerge out of it. An unspecified number of universes can arise out of this infinite fecundity, this quantum vacuum. So we do want to point to that sense of potential in nature, and we want to recognize the limitations of measurement, that any model tied to measurements is always going to reflect an already actualized mechanical system, that nature itself, nature alive, nature still in the process of producing itself, of being created and becoming through its creativity, we're always going to miss that with our measurements. The clock itself that we might use to measure time is itself aging, right? And so there is no stepping outside of space-time so as to measure it objectively. And yes, we can do all the Einsteinian Lorentz transformations and coordinate different reference frames using a standard speed of light, which isn't the empirical speed. It seems we're talking about a model here again, right? But this is always going to be in reference to the actualized aspect of nature, and it's going to miss nature's potency. It's going to miss creativity. And philosophy of nature, like Whitehead's and like Schelling's, is trying to bring this dimension back in. And once you do that, it makes it impossible anymore to separate science from art. It makes it impossible to separate art from science, because again, it's an aesthetic ontology. Truth becomes something that we experience rather than just think about in this sort of a participatory, organic philosophy of nature. So, yeah, just some thoughts I wanted to share. Sorry about the wind noise, but hopefully it was comprehensible.